Welcome to another video for a new you. And I hope today you're approaching this day with infinite possibilities and you're really welcoming this new you, and you're taking some time maybe for meditation or working your body out at the gym and saying, wow, I like how this feels. This new me today feels great. But I want to talk to you today about something that sometimes holds us back from really getting connected to this new person that's here today in the present moment. And that is the story we tell ourselves. What is your story? You know, the story that we live by every day. And maybe that story is a good story, like maybe we grew up with a lifestyle where people just gave unconditionally to us and we felt that unconditional love. And to this day, we're just living that way because we remind ourselves with our story that we were taught and we were given this way. And so I'm going to continue to give this, and everything in my view of the world is about loving. It's a happy place. And everybody's here to give, and everybody's a great person in their core, and I see that. So maybe that's the story you live by, and that does serve you. But what about the stories that doesn't serve us? What about those stories that you tell yourself that get you down, or get you frustrated, or when you bring something into the present moment that has nothing to do with what's really going on, but because it seems so real in your mind from that story, you just anchored that. It's something we haven't dissolved or worked on. Like, you have a story of, maybe you grew up with a harsh environment, or maybe you had a rough childhood, or maybe you're experiencing some traumatic events, and because of that it's changed the way you look at the world. And so when something happens, or maybe you've seen something happen that's so violent, like these things that are going on the other side of the world, and you see that from the news, maybe you grew up around that kind of media, and instead your view of the world now is everybody's angry at each other, everyone's upset, everybody wants the world to end. Everybody wants the economy to crush everything and diminish, and nobody wants the new beginning. People are mean. People don't accept others. People judge others. Maybe that's your belief. So then you walk around and you have that story that you hold. And so when you're in public, if someone says hi to you, they smile at you, instead of you taking that in as, wow, they must think maybe I look good, or maybe they think, wow, that's great, they gave me a smile, it made me feel good, and you smile back. Instead, you think to yourself, what are they looking at? And then your self-esteem might be low, so you're thinking, man, they're probably looking at me because I'm overweight. Or maybe they're looking at me because my hair's out of place. Or maybe they're looking at the fact that my clothes is a little rugged, beat up. Or maybe because I didn't shave today. And so you start looking at the negatives. The stories that we tell ourselves, they can really hold us back. So I always say this, and it's been serving me, and that is, start writing a new story. Close the old story and say, you know what, that doesn't serve me because the past, it's not here anymore. And I'm going to live by something new. I'm going to write a new story, and today I'm going to do that. Today I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, I'm giving up that old way, and I'm going to start seeing things in a new light. Or I'm going to start adding to that humbled story that I already have, but I'm going to start seeing the fact that there is negative things that are going on, and I can serve there instead of just seeing one way. The cover of a book is only as good as its story. You could have the best cover ever, and if the story isn't interesting, if the story doesn't match up, if it's not that good, then that cover doesn't look so good. So like I said, if that story is bright in energy and that cover's bright in energy, then they match up and they serve each other. But if that story is weak and dull, and that cover's bright and fulfilling looking, and it's like, wow, that's a great book, and you start reading it and you're like, oh, wow, and you put it back on the shelf. So what I'm saying is, this is our cover, right here. How is your cover? And your cover is only as good as the story that you have behind it. So when you start connecting with people today, you start really getting involved, if you're dragging around all that baggage, if you're dragging around that old story that doesn't serve you, it's going to come out in the form of judgment, or the form of saying I don't agree, or the form of sadness, or the form of not really making that connection. Someone might see you and say, oh, okay, and they might feel that you're a little out of balance, and they might see that, because you're dragging that all around with you. Or you'll come to someone and they'll give you a compliment and you'll disregard it because you don't feel that you're worth enough, because your story links to a low self-esteem. Your story doesn't serve you. So get rid of the baggage you're carrying around with you, that story. So this way, if you come with a new story, you start writing a new chapter today, you're an open book. Start writing that chapter. Maybe today you've just started writing that first line. And you connect with someone, they say, I could tell that you're on a new journey, you're on a new path today. Something's changed in you, something's brighter. Or they're first time connecting with you and they say, you interest me. I really want to get involved and develop this friendship and connect with you more. This is great. And you start to connect that way. And maybe they're writing the same book. They're writing their own book, their own chapter. And they say, wow, this is great. Well, I'm going to bring you into my new story, my new chapter. You're a part of my first chapter. And because maybe you gave a hand, or you gave an attention, your attention to them, or you gave them a smile, you showed them some affection of unconditional love and energy. And because of that, maybe that person is writing this new story in their life, and their old story, just they never knew about love and true unconditional love, or they never knew about people smiling at them or telling them that they look good, and they had that low self-esteem. But they said, get rid of that old story, and they started writing a new one, so you just made their chapter a little more solid. And you help them. So now they're also reworking this cover. Because as you start writing a new story, you're going to start to develop this and evolve the cover. And I want to remind you too that you're not other people's perceptions. Because when I walk in a room, I might have 100 or 1,000 different perceptions, depending on how many people in the room. And that's all because people see things differently. And why do they see things differently? It's because they have different stories. But you see, a story is what makes us all unique. That story that we live by. I'm just saying, if the story doesn't serve you, then start writing a new one that really serves you and serves the greater good and helps you become that person that you really want to be. So, if someone comes in the room and they see you and they think something different of you than what is going on, they're connecting with what you're saying and the energy, but they might see you differently. Don't let that affect you, because you're not that person that they're seeing. You're just who you see as yourself. You're the story that you live by. So start to see other people and maybe see them as if they're writing that new story already, and start to treat them at that level that they want to be at, that you could tell they're desperately working at, and they're desperately writing. And the only reason I bring this concept up is because recently I had the privilege to write a book, my own book. And when I was working on this book, it was challenging and it was exciting and fun all at the same time. There was times where I was like overwhelmed with this, and then there's times where I was so excited. I wrote a chapter and I was like, wow, this is great. And so it started making me realize that it's about the stories we tell ourselves. And when I started to write my book, and I started to write all the tools in that book, and I started to apply those and kind of relive the tools that helped me transform my life and redefine my life, I started to reapply them again and again and again, and I realized that I was rebuilding my story again and again and again. So allow your story to shift, and stop telling yourself what you told yourself years ago, 5 years ago. Same thing with, you had an argument with someone and now forever you see them that way. It was just a simple misunderstanding, or maybe that day they had a bad day and they're projecting some energy and they're unhappy with themselves, or they related to a story that they tell themselves all the time and they went back to it in a situation. So allow them to show you that new person, and allow yourself to show them that new person, and with it bring a new story. So get rid of that old story. And remember, this is our cover. And the story that we're dragging behind it, if it serves us, then that cover is gonna match, and we're gonna feel great. And right now you might be in a time where saying, the story I live by, wow, I didn't really think about it. And the story I'm living by, yeah, it makes sense. Everything in my life has been out of balance because I keep relating back to an old story. And it's going to be kind of hard to let go of that at times. The mind's not going to really understand what to do, and your ego might hold on to it. And it might be hard to get rid of that energy, but slowly but surely you can write it out. Maybe that's what you want to do, is just write it out. Write out why. Why do I keep telling me this story? What happened that's making me think this way or see the world this way? And then you can say, well, what can I change and do differently? Or did this really happen? Something happens and we blow it out of proportion. You tell someone one thing and then they tell it to another person, and by the time it gets back to you, the whole story's changed. The whole thing that you originally said is completely different or added onto, and it's now from this long, it's this long. So maybe something happened in your life that over the years you started piling on a new section of views and a new story to that. So now what happened to you was like so minor, and you made it so big, and now it's just this big rut and rock in your way, and you got your walls up. So get rid of the story, and I'm going to help you do that. But I want to talk to you real quick about the breath, the power of our breath, because life begins and ends with the breath, and stories begin on a breath. Ideas and thoughts transition to speaking on a breath. Thoughts are grown from breath. When we breathe life into our thoughts, life into our body, life into our energy, life into our actions, life into our passion, life into our story. So when you're writing a new story, breathe life into it. Make sure you're breathing in, you're thinking, wow, that story really does serve me. So here's a little practice that you can find out if your story that you're telling yourself, even if you already know this, but if you don't know this and you don't really know if your story is serving you, close your eyes right now. Think about your story. What is it that's happened in your past? Let's spend some time there. Think about your past and what is it that's gone on in your life that really got you upset. Don't try to figure out why. Just think about it. You know, this happened. Or I lost my job because of the economy. And because of that, everything's been going downhill. Or I had this argument with a friend and now my friendship's, been ruined and I miss that friend dearly. But it's because they were mean to me or I was mean to them. So what is the story that you're telling about yourself? Okay, now I want you to shift your attention from the story onto your breathing. How is your breathing pattern? Is it shallow? Or is it fast, like you're angry, like fast and unsteady? Now, if your story serves you, then obviously your body position is going to be upright and you're going to shift and your breathing is going to be more deeper, maybe more relaxed if it's a humbled environment, a humbled lifestyle, a humbled story that you've lived by. And if it's a story that doesn't serve you and it's aggressive and angry or depressed or out of balance, then it's going to be shallow, rigid. Maybe it's going to be really fast. So focus on that. And if your story is something that really brings light into your life and makes your life that much more happier and vibrant, then you're going to maybe be excited. So you're breathing a little faster but deeper, and you're going to feel great, and you're going to be upright, your chest's going to be lifted, your head's going to be up. Now open your eyes and think about that. The fact that you breathe life into your story, and your story helps you with that. So breathe life into your thoughts, into your actions, into your decisions, into your story, and start writing a new one. If that old story doesn't serve you, then let it die out and start working on a new one. Just like my book, I started writing a book and started working on it, and it was a struggle, and my mind was overwhelmed, and I really wanted to do this, I wanted to follow through, and I realized it's not about following through and finishing the book, it's about following through and allowing myself to be open and grow. Just because I finished the book doesn't mean it stops there. I continue on more stuff. Just because you write a new story doesn't mean that this little section you've written today or decided to live by today and got rid of the old is what you're going to live by tomorrow, next week, next year, for now on. It's going to be something that you're going to continue to add to and change and, form and grow and mold into a story that serves you. So, like I said, the person that shows up today, that is here right now, this new you, it is this way because of all the things that happened in your past. That does serve you. And I'm realizing that more and more to this day right now as we speak. All those things that I did in my life that maybe I was unhappy with, or I can't believe I was that way. I realized that because of that, I'm able to be this humbled, happy person that has allowed myself to teach, be flexible, and serve and help others. And just love my life and feel that love and energy and receive. So respect those, and I love those, but those aren't who I am. I'm writing a new story, so I'm not going to relate back to the way I used to think because I completely redefined my life. I completely reshifted everything and rewired my brain to the point where I was like, I don't think this way, and now I do this. And it kind of just happens. It's like when someone who's addicted to something goes right into training like an athlete, instead of thinking all day about what they're addicted to and going after that and when they want it and they crave it, they go into having this fit body. And they serve their community, and they serve their body, and they exercise, and they want healthier food, and they want healthier actions, and they got to go, 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 and they're not even thinking about what their addictions are. When they make that shift, that's when the transformation happens. That's when you redefine your life. And right now, we're just making a shift in our story. And I bet you, and you're going to be amazed by this, that when you make this shift in your story, your life is going to change significantly. It's going to go to the greater, depending on what story you shift into. But when you let go of that old story, watch how your life just opens up and new things happen and how your life just evolves. So let's change the story. Let's start writing a new book. You're on your first chapter. Start enjoying this. You have all these blank pages ahead of you. You can fill them up with nonsense and garbage and stress and overwhelm and disappointment, or you can fill them up with love, energy, vibrancy, a great, incredible life that you can share with others and say, this is great. I can't wait to work on these pages. So I hope you find this video helpful and you can really start to go inward and reflect and start writing a new story. So I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Like always, think the way you want to live, and then live the way you think. Take care.